Let's get started.
Yeah, I would have.
I have item number 9, and I'll know by Monday. I'm going to call that one ready. Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Madam President, and blessings to all today. I have items 10.
That's being held, honey.
Yeah.
10 and 11.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say it. 10 and 11 is being held, and 12 and 13.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioner LaFave, Parks and Recreation. Item 12 and 13 are related. Both are amending previous ordinances. Number 12 is an existing capital account that has a balance left in it for $14,000. We have done that project, so we'd like to take that remaining balance and put it into item or ordinance referenced in 13, because we need pretty much that exact amount to purchase the mobile bandwagon that you guys approved a few months ago.
Any questions?
Julie, how soon will we have the bandwagon?
As soon as this is approved, we can order it, and they said it's a 12 to 18 month lead time. So
by next year, maybe.
hope summer next year.
Okay.
Wow.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 14 will be discussed in executive session. Item 15 is being withdrawn. Item 16 and 17, Jen, so you reached out yesterday. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I think it'd be appropriate if we can kind of tee this up now, but it probably needs its own committee meeting, so.
That makes sense. Sure.
I like to hear we can appreciate that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Certainly, councilors. Good afternoon. Jen Tift, Mayor's Office, Director of Strategic Initiatives. So to tee this up, essentially, I think as everyone knows, one of the kind of 4 enumerated primary uses for the American Rescue Plan is actually related to providing broadband service. I think there was a large recognition during the pandemic in particular that this is an area that really is a big difference maker for families. And folks who don't have equal, equitable access to broadband, especially at home, really lack opportunities related to employment, training, education, all of those really important things. And so we had decided when we released the administration's plan for ARPA funds to designate a good amount of money for broadband, and we've been working on a municipal broadband program since then. And so this is really the result of that effort. I think folks recall last year we brought to you a digital empowerment program which used some of those funds to help with things like providing devices for low-income families and providing additional digital literacy service. So this actually provides broadband service to the home, targeting low-income families in particular. And so we put out an RFP. Councilor Green and Councilor Hudson were on that RFP committee looking for vendor support to essentially design and build a municipal internet network that the city would own, but we would outsource the operations for. And so we have a contract that we'd like to execute with that vendor, which is called Community Broadband Networks. And they would essentially do that network installation, and then they would manage the network, meaning provide internet service to households. This would be a pilot program, so we'd look to operate it for 3 years. It would be operated primarily in Brighton, Southwest, and near West Side neighborhoods. Importantly, it would have a $0 cost for home users.
But then I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a little cost to the households.
So, yeah, Counselor, we have been talking with the provider, and part of the budget that we have included for the pilot program, which we'd use ARPA funds for, would actually subsidize that little remaining cost. So our proposal is that the city actually use some of our ARPA funds to cover that little bit of difference that you're talking about, so that the cost to the home is actually $0 a month.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're clear. So when does it change from the zero to them having to pay for it?
So it would change only under the circumstance where currently there's a federal subsidy, which is called the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's a $30 a month subsidy that the federal government is providing. Congress will need to reappropriate funding for that program if it's going to continue. So right now, our best guess is that the funding for that Affordable Connectivity Program will run out sometime in 2024. We don't really know when, because it's obviously based on how many folks are using it. But if that program runs out and Congress does not reappropriate it, obviously there would be a much larger gap. And so what we're proposing to do is, in that instance, cover the bigger gap. And in that case, the home would be charged $10 a month, which is still very affordable for high-speed internet.
Okay, I just want to make sure we put everything out there.
Yep, yeah, no, of course. I think, we're hopeful, and we're doing a lot of advocacy right now with our senators and our elected representatives' office to try to advocate for the reappropriation of that funding, to the extent that you all are having conversations with our friends in Senator Schumer and Gillibrand's office and Congressman Williams' office. Feel free to also advocate for that. I think it's a very important benefit for Americans, but we're trying to plan for the contingency that might happen during the pilot period.
And I think it is too, but just let me ask you this, right? Because I think sometimes the county forgets that we are in the county. So at some point,
Certainly.
would they be willing to actually help cover some of this cost for their county residents?
Sure. I think it's a good question. And we've had some very productive conversations with the county about broadband. Of course, they have an entire county to think about, and they are investing some funding in broadband as well, certainly focused on some of those rural parts of the county that have no service today. So, they're trying to balance those things, which we get. One of the things that we've kind of been talking with them about, which is a way that they could support our efforts inside the city, is by, working with us to allow us to maybe utilize some of their physical assets at their libraries. So, all of the county libraries inside the city are wired with fiber. And that could really help defray the cost of us operating this type of network long term if we could tap into some of that fiber potentially. So that's one of the things we're talking with them about. We don't have, a specific agreement with them right now, but there are definitely ways, I think, lots of different ways.
Because I appreciate
for the county
that,
to
but I
support
just, for me at this point, I'll be gone. Okay, but we need to ensure that all of these pilots that we're pushing forward, that we'll have the ability to continue to pay for them.
Yep.
We can get to this in the committee meeting, I'm sure, but what is the plan for outreach for those 2,500 families?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we know this will only be successful if we do effectively provide outreach and marketing. So a little bit of the budget with the identified provider is going to be for marketing and communications and some of that engagement. But in addition, I think we're very interested in trying to do some additional work to really engage the community. We want to do that even before this network is in place and available, so that folks know. This is where the digital empowerment program that we did launch in partnership with the Northeast Community Center comes into play. So, I think as everyone here remembers, that program hired 4 digital navigators who are located all around the city, and they're already out there in the communities providing service to families. They've been in operation since January, and I think they already have 75 or 100 families in just the first couple months. So, they can actually be a very effective tool, I think, to really target the residents in this area in particular. And we definitely want to tap into them. I think we want to work with, obviously, some of the other community-based organizations as well, whether it's La Liga on the west side or what have you. I think we do need a much broader approach to community engagement, some of which will be a part of this contract with the vendor, but a lot of which I think we have to take responsibility for and do things outside of the work that the vendor is doing, just related to, customer service and enrollment.
So Jen, how is this going to be implemented? Is there going to be specific, like a modem per a house, or is this going to be like a wide thing where everybody will just tap in?
No, so this is not a public Wi-Fi network, to be clear. This is a subscriber-based service. So we're making the investment in the infrastructure that basically, powers the network and provides the internet connection. But folks are going to have to enroll in service like they would today with a different provider, right? I think we'll have a website set up. We'll have a 800 number set up for people to call. I suspect there will be some door-to-door knocking to try to sign people up to. So, folks are going to have to register for the service. But I think one of the nice things about this vendor, and I think one of the reasons why we were interested in their proposal, is they have a very hands-on approach to helping people get signed up, acknowledging that, we're going to have a lot of folks who maybe English isn't the first language or have other barriers to accessing and signing up for services. So they have a very personalized approach to really take a lot of the guesswork out of it and minimize the paperwork and that kind of thing. This is a wireless network, so you don't tap into an actual cable that's in your house, right? You will have a modem, like a wireless router, that will need to be plugged into your house or to your home. But that will be free of charge, so we're not going to charge a rental fee for that, or you're not going to have to buy the router like you do with some other services out there. All of that's included in the cost of the program before you. So a technician will come and help you install it if you need help installing it, but it's really just that simple. And then, if you have a phone and a computer or whatever devices you're trying to connect, you would connect them like we all do now with our devices.
Is it a first come, first serve application process, or based on what's in the application, there'll be choices made?
So I think it will largely be first come, first serve. We're going to obviously get everyone who's eligible enrolled. And, we asked the vendors to give us a cost estimate based on a pilot that serves 2,500 households. I think we're going to play it by ear and see how quickly we get to 2,500. If we're finding we have, a very large number of people, like way more than 2,500 in this service area who are interested, we'll take a closer look at that point. And the network's going to be able to serve, as many people as we want it to serve, frankly, in that area. We may need to make some additional investments in some of the physical equipment to expand basically the available spectrum or the access to the spectrum to connect to the internet. So right now we're basically buying enough equipment to effectively serve 2,500 people at broadband type speeds. But yeah, I think as we start to go over 2,500, then the question is just, do we need more equipment to be able to create the type of bandwidth that's necessary for?
Do you have a number of how many people we will actually be able to serve at the end of?
So again, I think we definitely need to evaluate as the pilot, unfolds, to make sure that the speeds and the reliability of the service, are appropriate. But assuming, the performance levels that we're anticipating are met, again, I don't think there's necessarily a limit per se. We just might need to make some more investment in some of the technology that makes the signal stronger or enables folks to access the spectrum.
Okay,
One thing
so
that
let's, can we,
Yeah, I just want to suggest something so you move forward is that as we continue to build on this, it's awesome that we have some kind of coalition of leadership where there's people from different spectrums of the neighborhood, community, school district that can help say, okay, these are the people that are in need of, a service.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. So yeah, happy to have a committee meeting, Counselor. I'll reach out to you just to confirm. The vendor gave me some availability constraints that they have, so they're very happy to come and meet with everyone in person, answer some of the technical questions.
And Jim, before you sit down, I just want to say this. I know you're calling committee meeting. I know because we have quite a few pilots going on right now.
Right.
So for us, I think that if we could get like quarterly reports on where these pilots are progressing so that we can see what's actually happening in real time.
That would be great.
Are you talking specifically about ARPA funded programs, Counselor, or
Anything that's a pilot.
anything that's a pilot? Okay. Sure. I'll agree to that, but I think I'm responsible for a handful of those, so I'll coordinate with some of my colleagues on that.
No, it's okay. You don't have to because we have a whole bunch of folks in here that's doing pilots.
That's right. Sure. Happy to answer other questions in the committee meeting. Thank you all.
thanks, Jen. Item 18, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. Just a couple of routine housekeeping matters today. First up, we are looking to amend Ordinance 390 of 2021. We had an appraisal authorized for pending litigation. Litigation's gone on. We're looking to settle, but we now have 2 additional tax years that have elapsed that we would like to get valuations on. So we'd like to amend the initial ordinance, get 2 years added to that appraisal, and work toward a settlement on that.
Questions on 18? Okay, 19?
One minor cleanup of an ordinance that authorized correction of the tax rolls. 1202, 1204 South McBride Street should have been roll year 2122, not 2223. That was changed. This was a small change in water usage, I believe.
Questions on 19? Item 20.
And an additional roll change, we have 3 sidewalk changes for 2223. That is 130 Buckingham Avenue, 516 State Fair Boulevard rear, 524 State Fair Boulevard rear. Again, those are for roll year 2223. And then we've got 4 years in which sewer charges should be increased on the roll, and that is the 2122 roll.
What's the sidewalk change?
Each of the sidewalks is, I believe, an elimination of the fee. There were 2 commercial properties in the lakefront neighborhood, I believe owned by Onondaga County. There should be no charge assessed, and one was a residential property on the east side on which no charge should have been assessed.
Because they had installed one recently, or what was that?
I believe that's the case.
For item number 19, the amount is really significant. Like, how do we miss?
This was, if memory serves, when I previously brought this, I think they'd installed new metering equipment. There was a malfunction, and it read really high for some reason. The county did their due diligence and was satisfied that it was inaccurate. They passed it on to us.
Any questions on these? Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Gathers.
Thank you, Madam President. Items 21 through 30. We're going to continue to hold 21, 22, and 23. And I'm ready for 24, item number 24.
Hi, Ann Fordock, First Deputy Commissioner of DPW. We had a special session about the capital purchases for DPW equipment and vehicles, and didn't know if you had any more questions for us.
Any questions? Thank you. Item number 26.
Good afternoon, councilors. Ken Towsley, Street Lighting Manager.
Hey, Kenny.
Item 26 is to amend the current ordinance with O'Connell Electric to have a not to exceed from $450,000 to $900,000. O'Connell performs majority of the maintenance we do in the city of Syracuse for the streetlights.
So I have a question on this one. First it was in as $450,000, and then they're asking for another $450,000.
Correct.
Right, for in the matter of, 22 days extension on the contract?
The contract will go till June 30th, and then it ends. We do have a current RFP out to bid to have a new contract going forward. We've already spent $450,000 this year, this budget year, on the maintenance, and to finish out the year for the next 6 months, we figured we'd have to double it to get it all taken care of.
Let's see. Any other questions right now before I...
Yeah, there is.
Is special lighting part of this, or is
Yes.
it all?
Yeah, they take care of all, it could be a special lighting districts, overheads, underground, highways, all of it.
They install the new poles that are missing as well, or no? That's us.
That's the city electricians perform the installation of new poles. So ones that have been knocked down, the city electricians will take care of that. O'Connell is mainly for the maintenance. When I have an outage, they're the ones who will go out and take care of it.
Okay, it's a little bit more deeper than that, so I need Corey to...
So, yeah.
I'm sorry, sir. I just, it's a little more deeper than that, so we need to get to the root of it.
So Ken can speak in more detail, obviously, but there are, I think, President Hudson, what you're getting at is the cause for the increase. So there are basically two main issues. One is something having to do with the equipment that NYPA's contractor used when the original conversion was happening, and we're sorting through that with NYPA. It resulted in more work for our contractor to have to do to repair some of the failure for the equipment, and we're resolving that with NYPA. The other issue, and Ken can speak to this in more detail, is just the condition of the infrastructure when we took over. It's really all the the wiring and the conduit and all those. We found once you started digging into it how much of it was really not in good condition, and so I don't anticipate, particularly as relates to the equipment, having that be an issue going forward, but the infrastructure that the streetlight network operates off of, which falls under the responsibility of National Grid, was just in such poor condition that there was more work for our contractors to do.
And since June 9th, when was this determined?
Yeah, so I think it's just that our contract was probably scheduled to expire June 8th, and so we're just asking for it to go to June 30th. I'm assuming because it's just a cleaner date. It's right before the beginning of the fiscal year. So for whatever reason, our contractor, so it's not as if, that money is being spent in that time frame. It's just while we're here asking for additional funding to pay the contractor, we'd also like to have a cleaner end date for the contract. So rather than having the contract expire randomly on June 8th, we're just asking for it to go to June 30th.
And to make it, add in again, when we talk about NYPA, right?
Yes.
We are actually looking to be refunded for some of the stuff that they did.
We're looking into having conversations with NYPA about
let's put it all out there.
About how we can resolve, the conversations are ongoing, but how we can resolve this with NYPA, the issue that their contractor
leadership
had with their equipment.
So this is, okay, to be more clear understanding, just to make sure that it wasn't, because my question was like from June 9th.
Right, it's not as if we don't anticipate expenses between June 8th and June 30th. It was just, we're here to say that we need more funding for our contractor to get us through to the rest of the year, and then while we're here, if we could also amend the date so it expires June 30th, so that's right before the fiscal year, rather than right now the contract says it expires June 8th, which is just kind of random.
So we didn't know how deplorable the condition of some of these poles were when we made the initial assessment?
A lot of it is what's underground. That's right. And the wires feeding the poles.
That's where my question was going to.
Yeah, two things we have to look at when we talk about the infrastructure. The poles is completely owned. We own 237 wood poles throughout the city. The rest of them are joint owned by National Grid and Verizon, which, Council, you're fully aware of. So the poles themselves, we don't have anything to do with. If a pole goes bad, that falls on National Grid or Verizon. We don't have anything anything to do with it. I'll report to them if there's a bad one, but that's the extent of it. When I say the infrastructure, we're talking the arm for the light, the wiring, the conduit, as Corey mentioned, the underground installations for special lighting districts, all that infrastructure, bases. If you see throughout downtown, you'll see rusted bases. Those all need to be replaced. Those were all items that we bought from National Grid when we bought this system. So as our contractor goes out and performs maintenance, if we have a light out at 101 Main Street, they're not Band-Aiding it. They're not just putting what's called a bus place to make sure they got power and walking away. I've instructed them to bring it up to the current specifications from National Grid. That's new wiring, that's new conduit that's up there to protect it, it's a new fuse holder if needed, all that so we don't have a problem 2 years down the road, a year down the road. That's why they're spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week doing maintenance. If they have to rewire a complete fixture, they get about 6 to 8 done a day, depending on traffic. So that's what they're spending their time on, bringing these up to current code. We don't want to have any issues down the road. So the infrastructure I talk about is not the pole itself, the wood pole. It's everything that is associated with the lighting.
But this policy initiative that was brought before the council regarding the city taking over the lights, there was no assessment of any of the underground infrastructure.
I can't speak of that, Counselor. I wasn't part of that conversation when this occurred.
I wasn't on the council when this happened either. But I mean, I'm just wondering, does anybody, because certainly I think we would probably stand in good stead maybe before a court if we're going to try to record some of these costs, right?
There's a difference there. The NIPA issue we're talking about is material that was used on the initial changeover from the old system to the new system. Started in 2019. So we're running into issues where there's water getting into these fuse holders, causing the fuses to blow. And you blow a fuse like in your house, you lose power, the light doesn't work. So those are things that we're replacing as we go forward. Now that's, like Corey said, we're dealing with that with NIPA and their associated contractors. What we bought from National Grid, just based on my research on notes that I've seen from meetings prior to 2019, the condition of the infrastructure was brought up by, I think it was Lonnie Bornstein at the time, but National Grid did not want to hear that. It was basically you're buying it as is. So we bought it as is. Now we're finding problems, and we are addressing those problems. It's not like I'm turning a blind eye to them and we're going to deal with them down the road.
Oh, I'm not.
No, we're fixing them as we go, and we're finding out that the more we get into it, especially highway lighting, the more you dig into it, the deeper you get, the more time it takes.
So this great deal, which I think was a good policy initiative, wasn't as great a deal as we thought it was.
I can't.
Well, I'm not asking you. I'm just making this comment because that's what city councilors do sometimes.
Well, and also wondering about next budget season, what's going to be in the budget? Are you going to go with that 900 or are we going to double that from there? Because
But we're going to go with the 900,000, Counselor, because also in the budget I did ask for 2 electrical linemen to be full-time under street lighting, to where they could start doing more of the maintenance that we have. They will still continue to put up the poles that get hit by accidents, etc., but they'll do more of the maintenance. Ideally, 2 to 3 years down the road, we start dwindling that 900,000 down. And I can say this, the areas that we're having major problems at, Court Woodlawn neighborhood, Sedgwick, on the outskirts of Sedgwick, outside the Special Lighting District, the north side, and a little bit down in the South Valley. Other neighborhoods have been really good. So basically what I've come to the conclusion is they had a bad crew or two working certain areas of the city, and that's where we are concentrated on now. So.
What's the life for these replacements? How long do you project them to last before you start replacing?
At least 10 years, a minimum 10 years. There's a warranty for 10 years for these lights. I can say we've had maybe a half a dozen lights that have gone bad out of 12,500 Cobra heads. And so the lights are good. The sensors are good. The software we use is great. Once again, it's the nuts and bolts of the system that we're running into issues.
And these are LED, right?
That's all LED, yep.
So we're bonding for this, correct?
No.
What are we doing? It says on the back here, I'm looking through the legislation. So it's cash capital or what? What are we doing?
So I think we're, without anybody from finance here, I think we're amending the ordinance to increase the amount that we can pay O'Connell, but that money is coming from other places within the DPW budget.
Okay. And it'll continue to be so.
Capital improvement.
Okay.
So I guess along those lines, Corey, I was just asking if,
You're going left, right?
Okay, let's dance.
with ARPA census tract, in terms of capital improvement, could that fit in at all into?
What, to use ARPA funding for this? So, I mean, I think, working with the budget office, we feel confident that there is funding within DPW's existing budget to use it. And I think just part of the challenge we run across with ARPA is that, when we, released our ARPA plan, that money is allocated for particular, so it's not as if there's a pot of money that's unallocated for ARPA funding that we just dip into, when we have issues. So, the money is within the DPW budget that we might take from money we were, going to spend on salt or, or other costs
Which we should be low on salt this year, so we shouldn't have spent out that whole salt.
No, that's what I'm saying is that we have unspent money that we budgeted to spend on salt. We haven't had to spend it on salt, so now that's a place that we can go into to try and help with these costs. So it would stay within DPW's budget.
And this will be a long-standing, obviously, we're going to have to incorporate it in the DPW budget going.
Correct. I mean, yeah, the maintenance contractor for street lighting is already an item within DPW's budget, and
I think it behooves us to figure out how much is it going to cost year by year, year by year.
Right.
So assume that we don't run into these glitches of this repair. Do we anticipate maybe going back to 450 eventually?
So I think that's what Ken, what Ken was referencing, that after, 2 to 3 years, it's sort of, you buy a house and it has a bunch of issues. Like, in the first year or two, you're replacing the windows, you're replacing the HVAC system, but then going forward, you've made all the repairs that you need to make. You might have to, do some spot repairs here and there. And I think that's where we plan to get to in the next 2 or 3 years is, given that Ken's directive to, if we're there and we're fixing it, let's fix it so it lasts. We don't anticipate these costs continuing beyond, the next 2 or 3 years.
And so if we are fortunate enough to get that refund back, that goes back into the DPW.
That's what we would put it back into street lighting.
All right, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Item 27.
Afternoon, councillors. John Kilvan, Department of Engineering. Items 27, 28, and 29 are for the same project. It's to improve channel conditions in Colebrook in the valley section of the city. Item 27 is to declare seeker Type 2 action. And then items 28 and 29 are for bonding and authorization for $800,000 to fund the improvements.
What does it mean to improve the channel conditions?
Right now, it's got sediment and vegetation. It's blocking the capacity of the channel.
Flooding the neighborhood.
During certain storm events, it floods it over banks. By taking out the sediment, we hope to improve the channel conditions and the capacity of the channel. So during flood conditions, it won't overtop.
Yes. And this is great. I think the neighbors in the valley have just been looking forward to this. Let's move this as quickly as possible. Can we vote on it today?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Items number 30 is to amend existing ordinance 647. It's for a use and occupancy agreement with the State Canal Corps for a kayak launch in our harbor. It's to change the fee from $25 to $50.
What's the purpose of the increase?
Just their fees have increased.
Gotcha.
Their fees, the harbor people?
Yes.
So do we get any of the fees, or is it all going to New York State Canal?
It just goes to State Canal. It's their property. We're putting the kayak launch on their property. We need a use and occupancy permit for that, and they charge a fee for that, for the use.
Of course they do.
All right, I think with that, Madam President, I'm all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hogan?
Thank you, President Hudson. Item 31 I will hold because we're having a public hearing on March 15th. 32 and 33. 32 is about infill housing, which is portable housing that'll take place on the near west side. I think it's a great idea, so using ARPA money to build affordable homes.
And I've seen them, and I've seen the 3 that's already going up, and 2 of them are already done, so yeah, I agree with you.
Can we get closer to the south side too? I just wondered. It's a question.
Sure. There's several properties that we've built so far on the south side. There's several more that are coming. So Baker, Garfield, Woodland. There's probably 8 or 9 over there that you can drive by and see that are new construction that have all been a part of this project, and significant more to come that we're working on. Sure. Yeah, so we're also looking at properties on the east side. The challenge that we have in the east side is when you look at kind of what available site control is within either things that are city controlled or controlled by the land bank, or even things that are seizable and kind of conducive to new construction. They're dealing with kind of a different set of parameters over there. So we're very much looking at the east side, kind of particularly focused in the area adjacent to the Boys and Girls Center around East Fayette. There's some the site assembly there's a little bit tricky. We're dealing with some issues with brownfields and things that take a lot longer. But we're really committed kind of through the lens of the Resurgent Neighborhoods Initiative to working through that. And then kind of beyond that in terms of the overall housing issues that we have, I think we're thinking about it the same way that we are about all of our neighborhoods. Every neighborhood needs something. What's going to work in one place is not going to work elsewhere. So I think we're really thinking for the east side, what can we do in terms of kind of rehabilitation grants, probably longer term.
But Michelle, let me ask you a question, right? When you talk about that spot, like in that area, because I know that side, when you're talking about everything over there that's actually open, I think would be considered like brownfields, right? Because I think we had cleaners over there. We had all kind of stuff piled in over there where we have...
On the east side?
Yes. Where we have all that empty space, but there will be brownfields.
Correct, and we're still working through some of those issues. So some of them we have successfully been able to get over to the land bank. They're still working through the environmental phase assessment process to kind of identify what's the extent of the contamination, what needs to be done to get it to the next step.
Have we looked at, there was an apartment building right in the middle of Crowley. Yep. Are you looking at that space
I am familiar with that space. We are looking at that whole kind of corner adjacent to Parkside Commons and really those 2 couple block areas near the Community Health Center.
Okay, because I know we had 2, 3 apartment buildings.
I drive by it every day. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 33, special permit for 919 East Genesee Street. We have Jeff here. If there's any questions, I'm okay with this. Any questions from anybody?
He came with a whole folder.
Was I supposed to review that?
He came with a whole folder.
There's a prepared man right there.
Wait, I think we have some
So what is the indoor amusement? What is it?
It's a fitness center.
Oh, okay. That's not as fun.
Okay, so...
What kind of parking and signage things do they have going on with this?
The Planning Commission granted a parking waiver, a waiver of the parking requirements. The site has no parking, or the property has no parking on site. The fitness center does have a parking requirement based on space utilized for fitness purposes, but the clientele that the fitness center is focused on are residents in the building or people that are already living or working in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. That's it for me.
All righty, thank you. Councilor Majok.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief?
Rich Shaw, First Deputy Chief of Police. 34 is application and agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice for an Edward Byrne Discretionary Community Grants Program for $500,000 to help us fund the cadet program. There's no local match required.
Bring it in, Chief.
We had voted on this already?
Yeah, no, this was something different.
What's the current budget for that cadet program right now?
How much? We have 90,000 currently.
Okay. So this is a big jump.
But we're looking to expand it, so we're going to have to come up with the money for that.
And it's going well, obviously. How's the recruiting going from it?
Pardon me?
How's the recruiting going from it?
I think we got about 15 to 20 that we're still whittling down the last batch of them.
Wasn't there another component to this?
This is, yes.
Right? Which is to, you want to talk, you want to talk about
Might
it?
as well, everything out.
The second component is we're requesting a residency waiver so we can fill those 15 to 20 positions. I'll let Deputy Chief Shulsky speak about the process that we use to select candidates and the diversity that we're achieving with this.
So for the advertisement and recruitment of the cadets, we mostly use social media. We also reached out to some community stakeholders as well. We got a lot of interest in the program, but as the steps to become a cadet, whether it be just an application, the interview, or the background process, at times a lot of people had dropped out, whether they didn't show up for their interview or whatever. We are down to 20 applicants. We're trying to fill at least 15 spots. Right now, 15. After backgrounds, we are down to 4 city residents and 16 county residents. I have the breakdown if you guys would like to see that. I think I have enough for everybody.
Yeah, proper would take care of it. Thank you.
So can they enroll in the cadet program and then potentially go off to be a sheriff?
It's the possibility, yes. When we had the assessment of our recruitment, hiring, and retention programs in the department 2 years ago, one of the big recommendations was this cadet program. And I think the most important part of the cadet program, whether they live in the city now or they live in the county, is to build those relationships with these individuals so that they want to work for our department, because it does come down to, we share the civil service list with every agency in this county, so we want to put our best foot forward with these individuals and have them have the connections and the relationships with the officers and our personnel in the department, because I think that we do have the premier agency here, and that's how we're going to sell it and how we're going to get more police officers in our department. And once everybody has the breakdown of cadets, you can see that even our county residents is a very diverse group of individuals that I think could really help diversify our department if we're able to bring them in and build those relationships with them.
So on the retention side, if I decide to enter into the cadet, not that I would, but if I decide to go into the cadet, at the end of it, what would prevent me from picking up and just leaving, going somewhere else besides staying with SPD?
So we don't have any type of agreement with the cadets that they have to stay here with us. We just hope that we can sell our department as best as we can. We do have somebody that is coming through the process that is showing that these cadet programs are not only beneficial, but they work, because they have a volunteer program out in Rochester. He drives from here all the way out to Rochester every Sunday, and he's going through their process, and he's willing to up and move to Rochester for that department because he knows the people there. He's built those relationships with them. So I think it's important that we get these people in our door, let them see what we have, let them see what there is to offer here in Syracuse.
Do the cadets provide useful service, or is it more of a shadowing program?
So the beginning of the process, it's going to be a lot of classroom training and work experience in the job shadowing type role, but it's a year-long program, so they're going to become efficient in the jobs that they're doing during this work experience. So it will evolve into more of having a role in the department.
I guess, are there things that they're able to help you with that, you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, or does that make sense?
Well, I think we're hurting in staffing, not only in officers, but also in the civilian roles as well, so they'll definitely be able to play a part there.
Like paperwork or things that, okay.
For sure, yep. Okay.
So how often is the police officer civil service exam offered?
It's offered twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall.
Can you also tell me the age again of the cadets?
19 and a half to 34.
So do we have, along what Councilor Green just asked, do we have a framework? Because my other life, I deal with a lot of internships, you know, and the benefit of having internship is so that you don't, that's the type of paper that you probably don't need to push, but the intern can push. You know what I mean? So that's a design. Is there a design around that to like quantify really their experience and so that the department could also kind of benefit from the investment?
For sure. Special Police Officer Victoria Barada, she's here with me today as well. She's been putting together the curriculum, scheduling classes, getting the work experience scheduled, and each area of the department that the cadets will be working in, they'll have like a job description or job duties that they're responsible for. I think that's what you're asking.
Can we use them in recruitment? Like, can these cadets go to high schools or things like that to then kind of show more of a peer thing for potential people to join the next cadet program?
Yeah, they would probably rotate through our recruitment section, helping out in any way that they can there. So yeah, that's actually a good idea. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the idea here is to expand it to not just Syracuse, but Onondaga County.
Yes, yep, to allow non-city residents into the program.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All righty, Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 35 through 39.
Item 35, 114 Strand Place in District 1. It is a vacant house that owes roughly $10,000. Item 36, 107 Milton Ave, also a vacant house that owes a little over $20,000. Item 37, 401-05 Delaware and Dudley Street is a vacant lot that is currently city-owned. The same situation applies to 100 Dudley Street and 102 Dudley Street. All three of these are in the city inventory and will be transferred to the land bank for land assembly for infill construction.
Okay. Will the 100 and 102 eventually will that be combined?
Yeah, yes, that whole, these are a couple missing pieces with a large chunk of land assembly that the land bank is doing over in the Delaware area, so idea is to get it all together and then subdivide for development.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, when did the price change over?
So the city recently switched over to a different title company. The title company that we had been using, though it was very cost effective, it took an extremely long time for us to be able to process titles efficiently with them. We recently added a new company in. They're able to turn things around much quicker. It is a little bit of a higher cost, but understanding a lot of the feedback that we've been getting from the land bank around kind of need to be able to transfer things efficiently, we feel it's the best move to keep the process going.
So this title company actually gives it to the city, and then the city flips it.
They do the same kind of title search process that any of our other companies would do. They're just able to move the volume a lot more efficiently for us.
So we're the owner, and then we move it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't do a title search for the land, though?
So in these particular cases, anything that is not already in the city inventory has to have a title search before we go through that process. These three had already been in the city inventory, so we know we have the title.
But
that
otherwise
happened
we would
before.
have.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. So the first two, items 35 and 36, have not yet transferred, so we have to go through that process.
35 and 36, are they in relatively good condition, or are they demo candidates?
So that always kind of depends on what the interior conditions of the property are and how long they've been vacant. So the scores that we have on these, they appear to be and kind of could go either way. So that would be something that we'd work with the land bank on to see what kind of overall interior conditions are and whether or not they need to be considered demolition candidates.
I think there's an active raccoon family in 107 Milton Avenue.
That is not uncommon.
It is sort of not vacant.
And there are active, if I'm not mistaken, Strand Ave is active squatters that we keep putting out.
Correct. Yeah. So, trying to get some permanent site control. Anything else?
All righty. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All righty. Meeting adjourned.
So, from a financial standpoint, when